Welcome to the Healing Soul podcast, empowering wellness and oneness. I'm your host, Marybeth Rombach Nelson, and I have a wonderful, wonderful guest today. Welcome to the Healing Soul, Maritza Schäfer.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited. We're going to have a great conversation. Maritza, can you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about what you do and your background?
Yeah, certainly. I was born and raised in Chile to a family of witches, and I moved to the US when I was 18. And that's when I really understood that that word is not very well understood, right? The word witch. But basically, I grew up in an environment where unseen forces were totally part of daily life, and intuition is really listened to and respected in ways that I believe are way more functional for us humans than other ways of being, which are trying to shut it down or ignore it or deny it, because we all have it and it is real. And so when we pretend it's not, we make our lives harder.
So just being open to the flow of the universe and, going with the synchronicities. And when I think of the word witch, I think really it's synonymous with being psychic and intuitive and manifesting.
Yes, to a large extent. So the way I think about witches, the way in the word in Spanish for witch is bruja, and so I teach people spiritual tools and how to work magic, and I name my business Bruja School because that's literally what it is. But the word is really charged, right? It's charged in every language, like around the globe. Um, People in the mainstream, if you will, or people who are not witches tend to be like either really compelled, really curious, like, ooh, because we all want to believe, right, that there's something that's more transcendental than just like this short-lived human experience. And so I think people tend to be really curious about, like you said, psychic gifts or manifesting and magic, but also very maybe scared of it or have negative connotations. If you think about the Halloween witch, Queenie hat, and like, the cauldron, it's like, sure, or all the fairy tales, right? Where like the evil witch in the forest tries to, I don't know, eat the children or whatever. And I have like a whole theory of why that is, which, to make a very long story short, I think that when people in general, but women in particular, are fully attuned to their intuition, know how to use their power, and are connected to themselves, earth, nature, and each other, the entire system that we live in right now would collapse, right? Because it's contingent on a lot of things that are not really good for the majority of people. Like the society that we live in works because we're anxious, we're working our lives away, we're buying stuff that we don't need. And when you're solid and when you know how to get what you need and want, and when you're fully connected with source, spirit, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, you don't you don't really need any of that. And if nobody did, then the three guys that are making all the money wouldn't be able to. And so I do believe that witches are terrifying to those who are against those things that we stand for, which are really health, love, sustainability, community, solidarity. You know what I mean? Like just like a simple, happy life on earth.
Right.
Um, yeah,
So are you into herbalism and like wellness practices with herbs?
that is so funny. I think I will be soon because I am not. I know
I
a
think
little
so
bit.
too, because I'm intuitive and I feel that for you.
Oh my God. So let me tell you about why. So I know a little bit about some herbs that I grew up with in Chile that my grandmother used and she taught me about, but I was never really compelled by learning more about plants or like fascinated by the plants. There is an organization called the Beneficial Plant Research Association that was started by this guy, Dr. Andrew Weil. Andrew Weil, who's
Uh-huh.
about studying plants for benefit, right? For healing purposes and all that. And a friend of mine invited me to join the board because in my other life I do communication strategies and organizational development, and they needed some help with the organization. So in that capacity, I've been learning, and she runs an herbalism school, like quite literally. So I've been learning about that more and more. I knew that my neighbor, my literal neighbor in the house next door, is an herbalist. And then I ran into them yesterday, and we started chatting, and they shared with me a link to this podcast, and it's all about herbalism. They're a doctor, but also an herbalist, and so they talk about this in their podcast. And I was just like, the plants are following me around, and I'm like, really? Okay. I'm like, maybe. So the answer, Marybeth, is no, not yet. Not
Right.
yet. Because
So
when I feel, sorry, I was just going to
synchronicity.
say, yeah, exactly. When the universe is hammering you over the head with the same thing over and over, you better stop and listen before you get beaten up, right? Because I believe that we're going to receive the messages that we're meant to receive one way or the other. And one way tends to be more pleasant than the other.
And I think if it keeps coming up like that synchronicity in several different people in ways, it's like walk through that door because it's going to be good.
Oh, 100%. It's
Yeah,
right now. I'm like, really? I have zero capacity to take in anything. I can't take on anything new right now, but it's obvious to me that this
it's on
plan.
your list.
Why did you bring it up? Are you familiar with that world at all?
Because before we started, when I cleared my energy, I heard that you were going to be working with herbs and wellness.
Okay.
So that's from my knowing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's interesting because again, in this project that I'm a part of, this nonprofit that I'm part of the board of, we're also working on developing a for-profit arm where we're gonna do I mean, I don't do it myself, but I support this endeavor, right? They're doing research on what plants are most beneficial for women's health specifically, and the production of the medicines or the products, if you will,
Right.
for using in that way. So yeah, I mean, I'm already up to my neck in it, whether I know it or not. It was just like, how did I get here? That's yeah, and that's how energy works, right? Or like synchronicity, where you're meant to be. I'm like, really? I'm like in the middle of this now. Okay.
Yeah, so the universe is saying this will be good for you. So I know you work with a lot of different people. How do you think that people, we're busy, 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 go, go, go. How do we get that connection back to our soul, to ourself, to our authentic self?
Oh my God, Mary Beth. I think we all struggle with this. I think it has two prerequisites, right?
Uh-huh.
It's an intention and it's a practice. Like if you don't want to connect in that way, you can probably get away not doing it.
Right,
And just like, we can all extend denial for very long periods of time as humans. And so I think that the first thing is wanting to have the intention, right? To
right,
remember that there's like something bigger going on than just like, oh, the kids, the job, the whatever, traffic, coffee, all the things, right?
right.
And then it's a practice because I think that there's so many different things that we can do to feel reconnected to our soul, to our authentic self, but it doesn't always necessarily come naturally, not because it's not natural, but again, I insist, but because the way we're living is not natural, right? And so our modern lives have so much in the way of us being able to listen to ourselves. So, for example, one of my practices, I do tarot readings, right? And so when I go offer a reading, I always tell people this is a divination tool. And by that, I mean not guessing what's going to happen in the future, but a tool to reconnect with the divine because it's always accessible. But right now, we're going to slow down. We're going to use these cards as the intermediary, if you will. And
Mhm.
like that, there's so many practices. I mean, I think the most basic one, and that's become really popular over the last couple of decades. It did not used to be so in the West. It was considered very woo-woo, is meditation,
Right,
right? And now meditation could not be more mainstream. And I'm like, okay, we're making progress. Like we'll get there one day where all of these practices will be open, accessible, and accepted, right? And so I think that just the intention and the practice of literally slowing down and listening to yourself and paying attention to the signs, like you're saying, is available to everybody, but we need to make the decision to want to actually engage in that way.
That is so perfect and so true. And I know meditation for me has always been a way to get messages for my higher self
Yeah.
and just to get downloads of information that make your life easier. So it is so worth meditating 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's so many practices too. I think for some people it's journaling, right? And they're like, what do I write about? I'm like, just get started and see what comes out. You might start with something really basic like today, whatever. I went
Right.
to work and I felt very tired, but as you keep going, you'll see how your hand has a lot more in store for you than you originally anticipated, right?
Right.
Um, and there's, I mean, how much time do we have? Like, there's so many practices. I literally have an entire body of work that's about helping people reconnect to their soul, to different levels of their consciousness, right? Like, not just our conscious mind, which is the two selves that are having this conversation here, but
Uh-huh.
also our subconscious minds. And, like you said, your divine self, other aspects of yourself that are beyond just like my own body and mind and personality and brain and whatnot, and connecting with different aspects of ourselves. Like, are we listening to not just our minds, but our bodies, our hearts? Do I really know how I feel? Our spirits, right? I mean, there's like a whole universe of ways in which we can explore both personal growth and spirituality and spiritual development that is so rich and so fulfilling and so, I think, easily available these days, that, I think more and more people are becoming interested also because living life without it is not working out for many people. You know what I mean?
People are so stressed out and they're not enjoying their lives. And it's so sad because your whole point of being here is to walk your soul's path. It's like, why did you come back? What brings you joy? What ignites your passion? And I mean, if someone listening right now doesn't know where to start, go for a walk in nature and don't look at your cell phone. Don't put earbuds in. How does your bare feet feel on the ground? Are you picking up a vibe from Mother Earth?
Yeah.
When you look at the sky, do you feel unconditional love wash over you? I mean, it sounds cheesy, but it's so true. Just those little moments of being present in that now moment can shift your perspective.
Oh my God, 100%. And I mean, like, if we really take our attention and a moment to truly sit with what's actually going on, our minds are blown by the beauty and the miracle of it all. And in fairness, that's why we can't do it 24/7, because then I would just be in a state of ecstasy, right, at the miracle of life, and I wouldn't be able to function. But I think that
Right.
in terms of reconnecting, you're so right. When I teach my students my liberation magic method, the first witch work, I call it, the first assignment when they start is sit in silence for 3 minutes and move outdoors. So it doesn't have to be a workout. That's not the point. The point is like feeling your animality, right? Your
Right.
physicality in connection to the elements. And it could be literally walking down the street in a city. Like, it doesn't have to be this mystical like hike in the forest. I mean, if you get to doing something like that, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Enjoy, right? But it
Right.
doesn't have to be that. It could be literally like walk around the block, like be like you said, no earbuds, no, just like try to be with yourself and nature outdoors in movement, and then try to be with yourself quietly in silence and see what happens. And it sounds so simple that most people don't try it. My observation has been because they don't believe how transformative and powerful it can be. And I'm like, no, 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 you don't get it. It's an experience. Like I can tell you that it's going to be amazing until I'm blue in the face, but you're not going to believe it because it sounds so stupid. Just sit there and do nothing and like walk around the block. And I'm like, yeah, but have you done it?
Right,
Right?
right, right. So, um, in your life, you said you grew up with witches. How's that experience? I mean, was it something you talked about, or was it just something you experienced in your family, or how did you progress through your childhood? Like my mom, we grew up Catholic, and my mom was intuitive. My dad could automatic write. I saw spirit at 14, and she's like, it's beautiful, it's a gift, but don't talk about it. So it was like I got mixed messages.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think this goes back to the whole thing about people being afraid of the unknown
Uh-huh.
and afraid of women in power. That's my
It's
analysis.
very true.
That's my
Very,
analysis. And I think that, so I totally understand the mixed messages because, hey, this is an amazing gift and good for you. And
yeah.
it's, learn to use it. And, little Mary Beth is like having these experiences. I'm sure on one level, your parents might have been delighted. And on another level, it's like, oh, this is not going to be an easy ride. You know what I mean?
Right.
Chile is a predominantly Catholic country. So I totally
So
understand that
you get it.
backdrop.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's like predominantly Catholic, like the vast majority. So I'm very familiar with that. And there's like Catholic influences in my house growing up. Nobody was really a part of the religion, but like we would go to um, well, when I was little, we would go to midnight mass on December 24th. So then when we came back home, Santa Claus had just happened to stop by while we were out. So things like
Uh,
that, but not really driven from like a faith place. It was more like like we're in a Catholic culture, so we're part of that culture, right?
right.
And Catholicism, at least in Latin America, well, definitely in Chile, is, people believe things that are not necessarily part of the Catholic doctrine. Like there's a lot more openness to energy work and things
Right.
that would be considered, quote, superstitious, because people know that, they're like, there's a saying that goes something like, I don't know, I don't believe in witches, but I do know that they exist, right? So there's like that sort of attitude towards it. So my personal experience was like at home, it was it was pretty open about it, and it was discussed. And my mom's a witch, my grandmother was a witch, and
Uh-huh.
they shared their experiences of what that meant, and I grew up with that. And nobody really said don't talk about it, which I'm very grateful for because it
Right.
didn't give me like a weird vibe about it.
Right.
But I learned from my own lived experience that I had to be quite choosy about, like, this is a little bit different and this is not common, and maybe
Right.
not everybody's ready to hear it. So I did learn that quite early in my life. But I also think that um, it's really important for people to understand that intuition and energy work and being psychic and all of these things that might seem kind of like out of reach, I believe that they're available to all humans, and they're to a large extent a skill. Some of us are more gifted than others, right? Like, so for instance, um, most humans can, I don't know, like go for a walk around the block. That doesn't mean that we're all going to be athletic, like Olympic runners, right?
Right. Right.
And so the fact that you're not downloading messages or having premonitions or feeling super connected to source doesn't mean that you're not. And I think the way my experience has been, I'd be super curious to hear about yours, Mary Beth, is that there's two sides to this coin, right? One is kind of like your inherent gift and talent. Some of us are born with a more open channel, if you wish.
Right.
And but it doesn't mean that other people don't have it at all, right? It's just like
Right.
maybe not as naturally. And then the other side of that coin is the skill and the practice. Like many of the things can be learned, like you were saying, like with meditation. Like how do you know that you won't get guidance if you've never sat to listen for it?
Right. You got to give it a chance. It's like when you're talking about skill sets, I'm horrible at math.
Correct.
Yes, it's not my thing. But if I sat with it every day and studied it, I would become better at it. And it's kind of like that for people that say they're not intuitive or psychic. It's there. They just need to be open and practice.
I agree. And I mean, if you studied math, you probably would never become like, the next Nobel Prize in math, but you don't
I'd get
have to
better.
be.
I'd get better.
Correct. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. It's like you don't have to be like your whole personality doesn't have to be intuition or spirituality. But I mean, to me, the bottom line, I'm very practical in my approach to everything, really, life and spirituality. It's like, does it make your life better? If the answer is no, then skip it,
Right.
right? But
Right.
I believe for myself and everybody around me that's ever actually tried it, when people commit to a spiritual path and they integrate a spiritual practice into their lives get better. Full stop. So, of course, why would you do something that is like for nothing, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but the point is that don't feel like I'm not one of those people, in quotes, right? Like I'm not intuitive or like that's not my thing because you're human. So by definition, it's your thing.
It
Like
is.
you don't get to escape spirit if you're here now, right?
Right. Right. So I think what people that start on the spiritual path of learning a different modality and connecting to their higher self, they gain clarity, which is everything because they know who they are, what they want, and where they want to go.
Yes.
And that's everything.
100%. But it sounds so simple that people don't believe it. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like it can be that simple, like it can be that straightforward, and it's like, well, it kind of is, and because the questions sound so simple, people assume that they have the answer. Like Mary Beth, do you know who you are? Do you know what you're here to do? Like,
Yes.
do you know your purpose? And when you really sit with it, the vast majority of us is going to be like, whoa, not really. I mean, maybe, let me give it a shot, right? Like so rare that somebody can be like super grounded and present and be like, yes, let me tell you, boom,
Uh-huh.
boom, boom, boom. And so I think that's part of the practice too, and the challenge as well is that all of that can change throughout your life. So it's not a static statement.
Right.
Again, it's a practice because hopefully you're growing and learning and evolving, and so that question or those questions is going to get answered in so many different ways throughout your life.
And I think the biggest lessons come from the traumatic experiences because it cracks you wide open and you're like, okay, I got through the shit and I'm okay. And I know I'm strong. And, I've had a near death experience and I know we don't die. So, what can
Mhm.
somebody actually do to you, or what experience can take you down because it can't? And once you realize that, people are kind of intimidated by that. It's like if someone says something to you that, oh, I don't like that about you, or it's like, well, that's your opinion. It's okay. And it like has no effect on me anymore. And I think everybody listening can get to that point with practice, with meditation, with, whatever opens you up spiritually and, working with a coach or mentor like you. And, what practices do you work with the people that come to you? Like if a listener wanted to start, what would you, I know everybody's different, but what is like the basic first step?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question, Mary Beth, because like you said, there's so many ways. And I think that both the beauty and for some of us, the challenge of this is that I don't believe we can be told exactly the formula that's going to work for us, right?
Right, right,
Like we need to experiment. And so when I work with my students and my clients, I have so many different modalities. Like I'm myself a Reiki master. I'm a family constellation facilitator. I do all different kinds of energy work. I do spell casting, again, the meditation, the journaling, tarot cards, pendulums, all kinds of things. And when people really want to learn and they join my program, which is like a deeper dive, if you will, for folks to find their own path, that's exactly what happens. I go, okay, here's like the menu of the tip of the iceberg, because this is just like what I'm suggesting today. And again, humanity is evolving all the time, and there's more and more things and ancient practices that you didn't even know existed, and then you discover them and like they get shared with you, all these kinds of things. And you're going to have to decide what is for you, right? And I think that's true when you think about, for example, relaxation methods, right? Like when people first learn about breathing techniques or somatic therapy techniques, it's like not the same thing is going to work for everybody. So you're going to have to try it and see what works for you. And that takes me back to our original point when you asked, like, what does it take to walk this path, if you will? And I said, the intention, right? And the practice. Like you just gotta want it and be open enough to try it and then actually try it. And very quickly, you're gonna find out what's gonna work. And again, over time, things are gonna change. So being able to be open and responsive to the changes in your own life. I remember I've been meditating every day for a very, very, very long time. And I remember there was a period of a couple of years when it just felt so incredibly useless and boring. And I was really restless. And it didn't like, I don't know, it wasn't quite working for me. And I was still doing it, but not as often. And I was trying other techniques. And then I discovered a bunch of other stuff. Like I realized, like, you know what? I need to like be more in movement, like literally movement, like
Right.
started working out again, all of that, because we're a whole system, right? We're not just mind, not just spirit, not just body, not just heart, but all of it. And all of these parts interact with each other. So it's a little bit of like a dance with how we're evolving over time. But again, like I was saying, when I first meet people, I was like, move outside, sit in silence. Let's just start with that and see how we go, you know?
I love it. I love it. And everybody, it's kind of like a spiritual aptitude test. It's like, okay, I like this and I
Right.
like that, and this really vibes with me. And it's just finding what works for each person and then taking each baby step of the practice on a daily basis of, meditation or yoga or, learning the tarot or learning how to use a pendulum. There's just so many different modalities. But, getting back to, do you think people, are afraid of their personal power sometimes?
Yes. That sounded very confident and sure. And I'm like, why is that? I think so because if I am not fully embodied in my power, if I'm not clear, like you said, about who I am and what I'm here to do or how I'm here to live, and then I become clear about those things, and it's not exactly what I'm doing right now, it's going to have all kinds of implications, right? It's
Right.
basically like there's this Talking Head song that is I always think about when I think about this issue, and the lyrics go something like, "This is not my beautiful house. This is not
Oh,
my beautiful
I love
wife."
that song.
You know, when the
Yeah.
dude's like, wait, how did I get here? Right? Like
Yeah.
literally, like I think one interpretation of that song is like it's a moment of reflection. It's like, wait, what am I doing? What am I doing? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And then if you come to, right, if you have this like awakening, this moment of realization, and you realize that what's been going on is not what you want to have happen, or is no longer what you want to see happen, or was never true to begin with, that will mess up your life in a huge way. It will definitely make it a problem in terms of, oh, so now I need to think about how do I want to spend my time? Am I in the right relationships? Do I live in the right city? Like all the things,
Right.
right? So I
And
think
it's
that
heavy.
people, it's
It can be
super
heavy.
heavy.
Yeah.
It's super heavy. And I think that's why so many of us hesitate about like getting into that space, because we know there's something there that can be very, very disruptive. And on the other side of the disruption, there's total freedom. right? Because it's the relief of being aligned, of like doing what you're meant to be doing, of like being fully yourself, right? And in fact, the program that I teach is called Liberation Magic because of exactly that reason, right? Like if you do this work, what you find on the other, I'm not saying it's easy, but
Right.
what you find on the other side is just like, in my humble opinion, what we're here on earth to do, which is, I don't think we ever like, quote, get there. We're not like fully enlightened or whatever, but moving in that direction for me is the most fulfilling thing I can do.
I couldn't agree more. Just taking, every day you wake up, you have different choices you make, and each choice propels you in a different direction. And when you are aligned and clear and have clarity, you make better choices.
Correct. Right, because why am I doing this? And to what's the point, right?
Right.
And what
Right.
is this serving? Yeah, and having that clarity is just makes life simpler.
Right.
You
Right.
don't have to figure everything out all the time. You just know what's going on in a way. And I think that's particularly important when everything externally is so chaotic.
Right.
You
And
know
I
what I
think
mean?
I couldn't agree more. And I think if you have a clear mindset of what you want, or just being open, having the mindset of I'm open to new possibilities, that opens the door to magic right there.
Totally. Totally. I know. It's a huge part of it is just like, what am I willing to believe is possible, right?
Right. And knowing you're worthy and knowing that you're unconditionally loved and that you're whole and that these good things allow them to come into your life because sometimes people will stop good things because they don't feel worthy.
I know. It's true.
It
It's true.
is.
And it's so tricky because I don't think anybody consciously will say, well, maybe a few people, but in general, we're not like, oh no, I don't want the good stuff. I'm not worthy. So it operates at a level that we're not even aware of, where we're just kind of like pushing stuff out because internally we're not ready to receive it. And
Right.
again, if we're not aware that that's what's happening, we're just going to keep thinking that we have bad luck or that people hate us or that I'm dumb because like that opportunity doesn't come to me. And like that's totally not what's going on. But it
Right.
takes the awareness, right? Like we've been talking about.
Well, self-sabotage, right?
Of
You know,
course.
you might get the best opportunity and you make a million excuses why you can't take it. And you're just self-sabotaging yourself and you don't even realize it. Because if you're busy, 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 go, 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 you're not going to have that self-awareness. And, I've talked about in a past podcast about doing a monthly self-evaluation, and it really tunes you into how happy am I? Am I satisfied in my life? Am I satisfied with my work, my relationships, my friendships? And then just writing down some thoughts on what little baby changes that you can make. But if you do that monthly at the end of the year, that can be just that simple little practice can be profound.
Oh my God, that can be so transformative because, like you said, it's when we're not paying attention and just in autopilot and going, going, going. And I think that what you're suggesting is such a healthy way of approaching it because usually when you're doing something like that, like you said, we can do like little baby changes that are going to take us closer to where we want to be. If you don't, what can happen, I've seen it a lot, is that all of that stuff piles up, piles up, piles up, and then one day it just goes, right? And
Right.
either you have a tragedy or an illness or a near death, like something calls your attention to totally come back to like what is actually going on. So I'm like, again, do you want the easy way or the hard way?
The choice is yours. Yes.
Yeah, and I think, that's very common, particularly like in people in building careers where they burn out, right? They're
Right.
like,
Right.
no, I'm just like this one more thing. And next thing you know, there's always one more thing. And then they collapse and they're like, oh man, I've been doing it backwards all along. I need to like reassess the entire thing instead of simply being like, No, I'm gonna shut the computer now and take a breath, you know?
Right. And I think like tragedies in your life when you lose maybe a loved one suddenly and you're not expecting it, it
Yeah.
like makes you sit down and really think about life.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
right, but you don't need those tragedies. You just need a daily practice of being aware of yourself and your surroundings and what you want. And can you share with our listeners, if they're interested in your Bruja school, what would they need to do or where can they go to find that?
Yeah, definitely. So, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought because I wanted to say something about
Oh,
what you
I'm
said
sorry.
before. No, no, no. It's all right.
It'll
Were
come
they
back.
connected? It will come back. Yeah, it was I'm like, what were we just talking about? Anyway, so yeah, Liberation Magic is a 13-week long program. You can come to my website brujaschool.com. It's BRUJA school.com.
Okay,
And I also have a gift for your listeners that you'll have the link for so they can get it there.
great.
And also, you can follow me on Instagram, on YouTube, and get a couple of gifts that again I'll share with you how to get from here.
I totally appreciate you, Maritza. You are a beautiful soul doing beautiful work.
Thank you so much. So are you. It's been such a delight to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's just you're a lot of fun. You've got such great energy.
Oh, thank you.
So do you have any final words for our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, I think just an invitation to um, explore your own inner landscape, your desires, your beliefs. To spend some time in reflection is the most transformative thing that we can do. It's not always easy, but it's always, in my experience, always has been for the best. And I can't imagine not doing that. So if that's something that's new to you or you haven't explored it a lot yet, a total invitation to start with baby steps, get support, but definitely give it a chance because it might change your life in ways you can't even imagine yet.
Beautifully said. And I will put all those links in the podcast notes, and that way they can click through and check out your website and your school. And
Great.
I always pick an intuitive heart oracle card, and today's is transcendence.
Wow, perfect.
Yeah, it is perfect. Rise above it all. Reach a state of bliss in your mind. Let your body rest while you meditate on your higher self. Transcendence. It really is that easy. And I want to thank all our listeners and viewers. And thank you, Maritza, for being on the Healing Soul. And remember to share this episode with family and friends and know that God loves you and so do I. The Healing Soul, empowering wellness and oneness. Thank you.